This is Stacey McKibben with the Master Communicator podcast, where CEOs, C-suite executives, and senior leaders share their advice. It's 6 questions in 9 minutes because the best leaders know how to share their ideas concisely and quickly. Let's jump right in. Question number 1. In a few sentences, tell me who you are and what you do.
Thank you for having me, Stacey. My name is Rajiv Nathan, aka Raj Nathan, aka RajNATION, the Startup Hypeman. Startup Hypeman focuses on helping growing companies stand out to their customers and stand apart from their competitors with their storytelling through sales and marketing.
Oh, storytelling is so important. I feel like that's the most underutilized strategy when it comes to actually communicating who you are. And I love that you're helping people right up from the beginning and start to do that right away. Can I ask you, what did you say the 3 things we should expect are, that we should count on? Death, taxes, and...
And your startup making it.
That's exactly right. Well, thank you, Raj. We're excited to have you on the show. Question number 2 for you. What's the best thing about leading people from your perspective?
Best thing about leading people. I feel like from my end, where I feel the most pride is when someone is able to take something that they've learned and do it themselves and basically come back and be like, hey, this thing we worked on is actually working. And here's how I've been able to adapt it for my own skill set and apply it moving forward. It's not just like, it breaks away from the, oh, I'm reading this script and then I'm just copy pasting this script. It means that they're actually able to take what they've learned, analyze it, and then make it their own ultimately.
Well, I love that too, because from what you're saying, I understand it to be that you're giving them something that they get to keep forever, right? So it's not, it's almost teaching the man to fish sort of idea, and then they get to use that forever and ever to be better, right? To
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing. Question number 3 for you. I often hear from other leaders that business would be great if it weren't for that pesky people part. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on that? You know, especially in the startup world, you know, where it's all kind of new and entrepreneurs are kind of getting the taste of customers team. And
no, I think people is the best part of it, right?
Yeah.
People make the world go around. You need your customers to buy from you. You need your team members to work with you. And I think if you're viewing people as a downside of things, then it's probably a reflection of how you're communicating with them, how you're interacting with them, whether it's internal. Are you trying to assume too much out of a person? Are you thinking that they are too much like, or assuming they're too much like yourself, and then you get annoyed that they don't do things the way you do? And when it comes to customers, you obviously have to have the right words, the right message, whether it's your email outreach, your demo call, your sales deck, right? Those kinds of things. You've got to be able to speak to them in a way that makes them say, hey, this person understands me and I want to keep working with them, or I want to do business with them in the first place.
Yeah. Again, you know, what I'm hearing you say is you got to take responsibility as the leader, right? To recognize that this is how you're feeling. Perchance it has a little bit to do with your approach.
Exactly.
And you know, I love to say communication is the response you get. So if you don't like the response, maybe you change the delivery.
I always like to compare it to, so I'm a huge fan of pro wrestling, which may be out of left field, but
I can see that in the background there.
Yeah, you've got the championship belt here, right? Yeah. So pro wrestling is ultimately like, it's a wrestler's job to build a response out of their audience. Either cheer them, get them to cheer, or get them to boo you. But if you're a wrestler, your goal is to make a connection with the audience so that they do react one way or the other. And if they don't, that means you're failing as a wrestler, as a brand. And I think companies should operate with that same mindset. If your brand is failing to generate a desired reaction, then you are not doing your job.
That was my soundbite right there, Raj. That was beautiful. I love that. That was great. Question 4 for you. What other successful business leaders like yourself should be on the podcast? I'm curious, you know, like, who should we be listening to, right? Who should we be paying attention to these days?
Yeah, so there's a couple who come to mind for me. One of them is a good friend of mine, Jason Bay. He's the founder of a company called Blissful Prospecting. He runs it with his wife, actually. And they work specifically with teams of all types and sizes on very specifically their outreach and they coach them through how to write better emails, how to make better cold calls, so that they get better responses. Another person who I think is doing some awesome work is Alex Batdorf. She's also in the startup space. She runs a company called Insert Expletive Done, Get Stuff Done, we'll say. And she's helping women entrepreneurs scale their businesses, grow traction, and ultimately create more like $1 million women-owned businesses.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk to her.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. I'm sure viewers will definitely go out and check those folks out. What piece of advice about communication would you give to other leaders?
Stop thinking like an executive. Stop thinking like an entrepreneur. Start thinking like an entertainer. Similar to a wrestler, an entertainer's goal is to create an emotional connection with their audience, which means they are always in service to their audience. And the analogy I like to compare it to is if your favorite band is playing Madison Square Garden, they don't come on stage and be like, all right, everybody, how are you doing? Good. Okay, great. Well, tonight we're going to play through every song we've ever come up with, not just the ones that have been officially published and released, but the B-sides and even the draft versions as well, because it's all really important to us and we don't care if it's important to you. Who's with me? All right, like that doesn't happen because they know, hey, we got to do the stuff that's going to get the audience to a desired emotional state by the end of this. They put their ego, it may sound weird to say an entertainer puts their ego aside, but they do. And conversely, what you hear a lot of executives, entrepreneurs, salespeople, marketers, et cetera, try to do is cram everything they know into every conversation they have.
Well, it's funny. I love everything you're saying there, and it resonates really strongly with me. I had another leader here recently tell me that her job as CEO is to fight her individual preference every single day.
I love that.
Because she's like, if I don't fight my personal preference, then all I find myself doing is coaching everybody to my ideal outcome or et cetera. And she's like, and you really miss the boat of engaging people when you do that. And I just thought that was a really interesting way to think about it, that she had to fight her personal preference.
What I really like, that reminds me as well of one of my clients. What I really like that he does is if he has an idea, he's the CEO of the company. If he has an idea, he will Slack his team with his idea, but he'll start it by saying, hey team, tell me why this is a bad idea. Mm-hmm. And so he's trying his best to, like you said, kind of move against his own bias or his own preference.
Yeah, exactly. And I think give other people the opportunity to do that. I think one of the things that leaders miss oftentimes is that unspoken halo that comes along when the leader speaks, is that they just can't get away from because of their title. And exactly. And I think they have to recognize that and work extra hard to articulate and demonstrate that they're serious when they say, no, I really want to be seen as any other person when we're having these ideas, and right. And put themselves into those places, if you will, right? Tell us, my favorite question, my magic question, who's your favorite boss or teacher? Who's really influenced you?
My favorite teacher would probably be my two marketing professors in college, Zafar Iqbal and Lawrence Hamer. I guess Dr. Iqbal, Dr. Hamer, I should say. Shout out Zafar and Dr. Hamer. I went to DePaul University here in Chicago, and my senior year I applied for and was accepted into the honors marketing program. And I think what I learned through their classes over an entire year was really how to think more than I ever had before, and how to approach a situation where you're not given the answers, but can you figure out a way to problem solve? And the lessons I learned from them, I carry with me today. I've carried with me throughout my career, but especially in a lot of the work I do today, because as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you're problem solving every hour of every day.
That's actually responsibility number one, right? It feels like. Well, thank you so much for being on, Raj. It's been an absolute pleasure to hear your ideas and your thoughts. I'm curious, how can people find you if they want to reach out and touch base?
You can head to startuphypeman.com. That's the website, @startuphypeman on all the social handles. I've also got my own podcast interviewing entrepreneurs in the startup ecosystem on their growth strategies called Startup Hypeman, the podcast. And you can connect with me personally on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/Rajiv Nathan.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm sure everybody's going to go out and check you out and make sure that they get all their questions answered. But in the meantime, this is Stacey McKibben with the Master Communicator podcast. For more insights and ideas, please go check us out at www.concilioteam.com. Look forward to seeing you again next time. Take care.